It's August the 2nd, 2023. Thank everyone that's joined us here at Town Hall, and also those people that are joining us on Facebook. Appreciate you being with us. Would you please stand with me in our pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. For the record, Dr. Sheets will not be joining us due to a scheduled conflict, and our town attorney will be joining us a little bit later. My understanding, will. Phone, okay. And so, records will note that. Other than that, all council members other than Dr. Sheets are in attendance. Is anyone signed up?
No, sir.
Nobody signed up for public comment time, so we appreciate everybody that comes and have comments in the future. You're always welcome to come and be a part of the council meeting the first Wednesday of every month at 5:30. Moving on to pass the citizen concern, approval of the agenda, and council, I'll remind you, approval of the agenda is also includes the consent agenda, which has the minutes of our last meeting and also the appointments of those people on different boards. Are there any questions or comments from any council member concerning that before a motion? I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
The agenda be approved as printed.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Let the record show it is 3-0. Thank you. Moving on to rest of the agenda, I have several comments I want to make. As far as the mayor's report, it's just kind of a reminder to everyone about some activities that's going on within our town. There may be times during our meetings, some other comments may be made concerning these events, and I'll be more than happy to entertain those times if you have more than I mentioned, but just to give an overview of things that are happening. First of all, is the grand opening of Fairview Park, Friday, August the 4th. As it's coming forth at 4 p.m. That's the new park features and the new name that will be over that park. And we encourage to see everybody to attend us at 4 o'clock at the new park. Also, Food Art Groove, better known as FAM, will be happening Friday night on Central Street with live music at Main Street Park beginning at 6. And we've had outstanding attendance the last 2 months. So hopefully we'll have another good one Friday. So everybody is encouraged to come and be a part of that. Citizens Academy registration is now open for the fall. More information can be found on our website and social media. This is an opportunity to people that wants to find out more about what's happening in our town and how things work, the responsibilities of all our different departments. I encourage you to consider be a part of that. That is always a very educational part of what's going to happen in our community. I encourage you to be a part of it if you have interest in doing so. And if there are some questions you want to get in touch with the town, we'll be more than happy to answer that for you. Norris Public Library will hold the end of the summer reading party Friday, August the 4th from 2 until 4 at the Scout Hut located on Tom Street. There will be refreshment, prizes, and special guests. So we always thank the library, the work that they do in our community, and all the people, the young people they go out to reach. Kind of the end of the summer events happening, so we encourage you to be a part of that coming up Friday also. Join us at Points Park for Movies in the Park on August 18th, featuring coming around in Encanto. Is that close?
Yep.
Okay. I'm encouraged by that, and so Moving in the Park on Friday on the 18th, and so it's always a great time to be down in the park with movie in the park, and that's gets to seem like our attendance continues to grow. So thank everyone for being a part of that. The town of Spindale will be celebrating 100 years. Join them for the Spindale Centennial Block Party Saturday, August the 5th, beginning at 11 and ending with fireworks at about 9:30. I encourage all of our council and anybody else that is available. Be sure to attend that as a big event, and as we well know, those events take a lot of work and planning, and its success a lot of times depends on attendance. So we encourage people to be there and support them in every way we possibly can. So that'll be starting Saturday by 11 o'clock, go till the fireworks. Then there's a countywide back to school bash Saturday, August the 5th from 10 to 3 over at Pops at our neighbors over in Forest City. So, some of one school has started back already, but everybody else will be getting back online pretty soon. So this is kind of a celebration for all those young people getting ready to go to school. So I encourage you. And that's pretty successful. We have a lot of young people all over the place. And so I encourage you, if you have a young person getting ready to go back to school, be a great time to get back and have enjoyment for the end of the summer event. And I think that just about covers mine, does it not? Okay, I'm looking for heads nods. So, all right, that gives me enthusiasm to continue on. Moving on to old business, I do not see any old business door. And that allows us to jump into new business. REZ, whatever that stands for, rezoning 02-23 on North Washington Street.
All right, the first item up, first item up for business tonight is rezoning, rezoning 0223, which is a rezoning request from A&T Ventures, the owners of 269 North Washington Street. It's the lot that's on the corner of North Washington and 6th Street. It's currently zoned single family residential 3, so our SFR 3 district. They proposed to rezone that to MU1 or a mixed use 1. The planning board took this up at their meeting earlier last month in July, right after our meeting on the 13th. And the planning board did recommend unanimously to the town council that the rezoning be in favor to move to the MU1 zoning. Because of the schedule between the planning board and the town council, and it is a rezoning, this would require public notice and a public hearing. And so tonight, if there's any additional information that you would like to be received at the September meeting, we can go over that for both the applicant and the planning board to provide. But tonight is really about calling for a public hearing at our September meeting, after which we would then have a vote. We also need to move forward, if a public hearing is called tonight, to both sign the property with rezoning signs, and we will send out letters of notice to all the surrounding property owners with the staff report and all the maps that you see here. So all the property owners around that contiguous to this property. And as a matter of fact, we've actually already done the letters. We actually went a little bit farther than these properties. We went to the next layer because there is some residential properties around there. So the rezoning in a nutshell would go from a single family residential use to a mixed use, which will allow for general office space. And there was some discussion at the planning board whether or not to rezone this into our Main Street district. It felt like because our MU1 district has less available uses by right than our Main Street district, that it was a more suitable district for an office location. And that is the plan of the applicant, is to basically fully renovate the home into an office. So this is the current home that's there now. And if you go to, that's on this one, you can see kind of what their vision is for the home. Subsequent to the planning board's recommendation, the Historical Preservation Commission also has already issued a certificate of authenticity for the renovations of the property. One of the neat things in the discussion between the applicant and the planning board and the Historic Preservation Commission, because of the layout of the home, none of the interior features or exterior features of the home will be modified for the office use. Now, they will be renovated for the office use, but there will be no plan changes, no bathroom changes, no room changes. So it could revert back to residential in the future. The only major changes will be on the site with some landscaping and tree removal. And then also the needed parking that will be along the Sixth Street side of the home. So those are the major changes that you'll see from the outside, but as far as the structure itself, it would remain intact as a residential property just for office use. So with that, I'll stop, let you ask any questions, but tonight is really about calling for that public hearing at our September meeting.
Has there been any kind of estimate of how much this renovation will cost, budget? Because it's a pretty good size investment, somebody will.
We can-
Doing that.
We can find out from the applicant, that's.
And just a curiosity, because they obviously will make a very major investment to improve the property. So to me, it was like very good improvement. Any questions or comments from any councilman?
I don't know anything, I realize that I don't have to know that to set the schedule, but I don't know anything about AT Ventures. I'd like to learn something about it.
They will be here, they are local, they will be here for the public hearing, you can ask them any questions that you like during the public hearing process. But they are, it's a local company, it's a, partnership between two people, here in Lebanon. So they're both existing businesses that are coming together, and that's the name of their former LLC that own the property, but it's two existing local businesses that have decided to partner together in the same office and start a new venture, so AT Ventures. But they have outgrown, each one of them has outgrown their existing office space here in Rutherford, which is necessitating the growth. You, when they do arrive, you'll, my gut would tell me that you would probably know who they are.
They're local.
It is. Well, actually, it's a first name and a last name.
So are you looking forward tonight is setting a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Any other further questions or comments anyone would like to make? Questions asked? If not, I'll entertain a motion for a public hearing.
I make a motion that there will be a public hearing in September meeting.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, any further discussion? All those in favor of public hearing set for next month, raise your right hand. Let the record show it is 3-0. Thank you. Moving on to item B, development agreement, Cowan's Loft.
Next one is the same thing, so this one does have a development agreement attached to it. We've talked about this project for quite some time, working back and forth with the developer on this one, but this is the Cowan Lofts project, and because it does involve, city street and city utilities, there is a development agreement that will require a public hearing. Again, this was another project the planning board took up at their meeting in July and voted unanimously to recommend the project in the agreement to the town council. It would also require a public hearing and notice of all the surrounding property owners. The project sits on a little over 3 acres in our RMST zoning district. It actually borders town-owned property, so as you go up East Second Street right here and turn onto Cowan, this property line going along this side right here, this is our public works facility. So right behind our public works, at the Duke Power substation is right here. So just kind of some reference there up on East Second Street and Cowan Street. Again, the property is zoned RMST. The project calls for 17 one-room apartments to be in adaptive reuse of 2 existing buildings. It is, again, multifamily. The multifamily density for RMST is 14.5 units per acre. This is 17 units on 3.9 acres. So the density for this is only 5.3 units per acre, so well below the density. They are creating some new roadway here, so Cowan Street would be 430 linear feet of new roadway, and Sheehan Street would be 300 feet of new roadway. The development agreement in a nutshell outlines the density at 17 units, provides the process for transferring the roads to town upon completion, establishes a process for the sewer lines and a timeline for the project. The project does have some intricacies about it, and so we're kind of glad that there is a development agreement here. I'm gonna go to the page that has the water and sewer lines on it, just so you can understand what's going on here. So this is, Sheehan Street as it kind of comes down right now, and there is a sewer line that comes right here and actually goes underneath the corner of this building and right along the edge of the footer of this building and pops out right here. It's an old terracotta line, and Keith and I were very nervous that if we allow that line to stay in place with the development, that it would be something that would have a potential for breaks, have a potential for backups, and with having 17 apartments right there in that area, it just wasn't something that felt comfortable doing. And so what we're looking at doing is actually installing, or the developer is installing a new sewer line that would come along the backside of all of these units and then come down the new Cowan Street back out to Second Street. The total sewer line is over, I want to say it's over 900 feet of new sewer line. In the agreement, we looked at an opportunity to pay for the relocation of that. That would have been something that we would have done anyways, is the relocation of that line. And so a portion of that, up to $18,500, the town would pay for with their contractor to move that.
What's the estimated cost?
$18,500.
So we're gonna pay the full cost?
The full cost of just the area of relocation, not all of the sewer work, just what would be needed for the 4 manholes and the line work around, moving around these buildings. So we would not pay for the full cost of all of the sewer work, just the cost of what would be the relocation.
You would have to do that anyway.
Correct, correct. The other issue is pedestrian access along these roadways. And so even though they're constructing a new roadway here on Cowan Street and installing sidewalks on Sheehan Street right now is a gravel road. So as it comes off of East Second and goes down to the access to this property is a gravel roadway. And we do have plans to resurface that roadway up to Powellville standards. The issue is that with the topography that's back there on Sheehan Street, it would be very expensive using town forces or town contractors to install a sidewalk along Sheehan Street. We have existing plans to bring a new sidewalk up Second Street, turn onto Cowan, and then back onto Recreation for access to Fairview Park. And so what we looked at doing was working with the developer to contribute up to $10,000 for the sidewalk work along Cowan Street here to connect the property in. That'd be a much cheaper resolution than the town trying to do the retaining walls and the grading work needed to install a sidewalk onto Sheehan Street, and would not be connected to a new sidewalk that we would have there on East Second that would stop at Cowan. So the hill going up East Second gets a little steep there once you pass Cowan. So imagine we would have sidewalk now connectivity from this project down to the intersection of Cowan and East Second, and then East Second down to the Purple Martin Greenway, across Cowan now, and then back up Recreation to Second Street, Fairview Park. So it's gonna take me a minute on my nomenclature. I might call it Fairview or Second Street. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But just the installation of the sidewalks on that Sheehan Street. And I would encourage you between now and September to take time to ride up there and see what I'm telling you. So take time to ride up East Second Street. You can drive into the property on Cowan as they're grading that. And then you can come back out on the East Second and then drive down Sheehan Street and see just the sheer amount of work that would require our staff and funding to put a sidewalk on Sheehan. So it'd be a cost savings to the town by contributing those $2 amounts.
Do we have a requirement to have a sidewalk on Sheehan?
We do not, but there would be no connectivity to this project without sidewalks on one of those two streets. Cowan makes more sense than Sheehan.
You would actually connect those apartments to Second Street Park, too. They would have access with the sidewalk to the park.
But
But you got 17
I know.
units there that can walk across.
If a development was being put in, I thought they had the responsibility for roads and curbing and sidewalks in the development of their property.
They do, and the issue is that this right here stops about 400. Their property does not go from there back up to the connecting road at East Second. And so from a user standpoint, what would happen is they would have sidewalks on Sheehan Street, but they would stop 400 feet from East Second. And so if you lived in those apartments, you would have sidewalks that would go about 300 or so feet, 300 feet of the new roadway, and then stop. So you wouldn't be able to walk on a sidewalk from that new project to any connected sidewalks in the town. So what we're saying
What
is,
about the road that comes in, across from Recreation? Not Recreation, but Calvary.
so this
Is that
road,
not gonna have a sidewalk?
not without the town's investment, because that is not part of the phasing for this. So the phasing plan, this will be the only, this right here will be the only part of phase one. And in phase one, the developer chose Sheehan Street as their frontage road, not Calvin Street. So this grading will go in, but there'll be no sidewalk on that road without our investment in it.
So would be, you talking about a grading, would be a road put in?
Phase one only has the rough grade of this road going in. This road does not go in during phase one.
I thought it was already, somewhat already in.
It's a private street.
Is this old she had Texas Mill property?
Yes, sir.
So that, there's a stretch of about 300 feet, the dotted line that you've got that we're doing, and they're gonna do their parking lot and their drives.
Correct.
And that's estimated to be $10,000.
Well, the way the development agreement is set up is they are required to do the sidewalk in the development agreement, and we're capping our investment at 10,000. If it costs them 25, they're still required to do it. We're not gonna pay any more than 10,000.
So right now, we now got, 23,500 roughly. Okay, 18 and 10, 28,000.
Correct. The 10,000 will be eligible for Powell funds, and the 18,500 will be eligible for sewer funds.
Any other questions or comments?
Then I like the fact where you said that we could go and look at all of this, but I would like to go, maybe make an appointment with you
Absolutely.
and
Glad
go
to.
over, I can hear what you're saying, but it's a better thing if we can see it. For
Absolutely.
me. We can maybe set up a time sometime next week.
I'd be glad to drive you up there and get out and look.
Is that our investment in that development, or is it other costs?
That would be our total investment in the development, no other costs.
Any other that attends the ribbon cutting at park, you'll be able to see
That's it.
from distance. And it kind of ties all in together, that whole community now has a real nice park to go with. Any other questions or comments?
How will this property be zoned?
It's currently zoned RMST, and it would stay, there's no rezoning on it, it will stay RMST. So the reason that they're building they're allowed to move forward with their building because if the building's in use by right, the development agreement triggers for the new roadway and the infrastructure.
But it will be a privately owned facility that will pay down taxes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, there'll be market rate apartments, 17 apartments there.
And what is it you're looking from us?
We need to get a call for a public hearing on the development, proposed development agreement at the September meeting.
Same time as the other public.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions, comments from council?
Is there other residents who knows what's going on there in the community? Are they aware?
So the same thing, we'll have to sign the property, and then all of the surrounding property owners there will receive a letter with the same staff report as in the map. So, yes.
So what we're doing is approving a public hearing on, Calvin Law Development Agreement.
Yes, sir. So we need to call for a public hearing on that. And that will allow us the opportunity to publicize that, to notify the neighbors, we can host a public hearing, and then it would be up for more discussion after the public hearing in September.
I move we call for public hearing.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
I second.
There's a second, any further discussion? All those in favor of the public hearing in September, raise your right hand. Let the record show is 3-0. Thank you. Moving on to number C, resolution 02-24, supporting Foothills RPO.
So this year, Mayor Dance and I serve as TAC and TCC members of the RPO. And one of the things we talked about at the RPO level this year is ensuring that all of our member jurisdictions of the Foothills RPO, which would be any municipality within Rutherford, Polk, McDowell County, the 3 counties plus all of the jurisdictions in those counties that participate in the RPO, which is the Rural Planning Organization. The Rural Planning Organization works hand in hand with North Carolina Department of Transportation to score projects and then put projects in their spot scoring process, which is the DOT's Transportation Improvement Plan. So one of the things that we're doing differently this year as an RPO is ensuring that as we submit projects in for our region, that all elected officials understand what projects are going in. So we ran into an issue with one of our member jurisdictions last year where the staff and the planning board of the planning staff and management staff of that jurisdiction supported the project. And when the project came to fruition, the elected officials did not support that project. And so what we don't want to do is be submitting projects that don't have full support from both staff and the mayor and council. So what I wanted to show tonight was kind of the status of where we are with spot 7. So on here, I tried to make this a little bit easier for you because this is a big process. So this first sheet, and I know these are a little hard to see, but these are all of the current projects for Rutherford County that are in the current Spot 6, 2024 through 2023 State Transportation Improvement Plan. Okay? So if they're currently in the plan that's being worked on by the state, they're here. The ones that are highlighted in blue have a direct correlation to the town of Rutherfordton or projects that we have previously submitted or previously had funded. And so those projects, and I know you probably can't read that, those projects include Executive Drive that the town was able to get ARC dollars for, that still flows through DOT on their STI plan. The RAISE grant, the $25 million project for the RAISE grant is the next one down. There is a bank of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects there that are all deemed US 221. Those are all some version of either the existing bypass, the BB project, the BA project, which is the lower section, or sections of the 221 project on either side of those, kind of the bookend projects. And then at the bottom, there's a series of 3 projects. One still is labeled 221, this one right here. That is intersection improvements at Thunder Road. So we've been working with DOT to try to figure out a way to increase the sight lines and take that kind of hump out of the intersection of Thunder Road and increase the turning movements at Thunder Road. And then the next one is the intersection of Maple Street and Charlotte Road, also known as what kind of 5 points down here at Meepoblito. That's a project to improve that intersection. And then the last one is intersection of East Mountain Street and 64 up near the corner barbecue. It's an intersection improvement there.
Was those funded or did some of the requests?
They are all in different areas. So the ones I just talked about, none of those are funded. The only ones that are funded here are the existing 221 bypass that's under construction, the BB project, which goes from Charlotte Road down to 74, and then obviously the RAISE grant and Executive Drive. Now we have submitted the East Mountain Street and Charlotte Road intersections for, those were projects we submitted in, either us or DOT submitted in for the carbon reduction program to seek funding from the federal government through the carbon reduction program for those two. Don't know how those will pan out.
Where, say that one again, I'm trying to picture it in my mind, and I'm not getting. From east, Mountain Street,
Just the intersection of East Mountain Street and 64,
okay,
just the intersection.
and roof, basically.
No, sir, corner barbecue.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Toward the Lake
I
Louise.
was thinking we were talking about one of the other 221.
What's that gas station called? We used to call it.
Mustang.
It was Ledbetter.
Yeah. Mustang. What's that?
I don't know.
I just
I
couldn't
That's
remember
what,
what
I
we
think
used
that's
to call
what
it.
the brand was for a while.
Yeah,
Ledbetter store.
yeah. back then.
Okay, so then, the next group, this 2023 prioritization projects for Foothills. So for Rutherford County, we are held to a group of projects that we are allowed to submit. And this is a very competitive process. So what we try to do is over here, again, I know this is a big sheet, but if you can blow it up on your iPads or just kind of bear with me, I'll throw it over here. We try to submit projects that score at a 25 or higher for the division score, okay? Now, I cannot tell you how that whole process works, but DOT has a matrix that throws in traffic congestion, throws in equity, throws in the ability for multiple transportation services, so pedestrian, transit, bike and ped, or bike lanes, and then the traffic flow, so congestion management, plus the impact of kind of a return on investment, greatest good kind of things to it, okay? So that impact score is what we would compete against on both a division level, a regional level, and a state level. And if that score is not over 25, it's not that that project doesn't have good merit, but it's probably not going to get funded. And just for sake of the 2024-2023 plan, there was only one project in Rutherford County that went from not being funded to funded in that cycle. So we have to find projects that compete well. And so the projects that will go through what's called Spot 7 will include all of the projects that are in the current STI. So just because they're in the current STI doesn't mean they get kicked out. And that once they're here, they're good. They don't come off unless they get funded, or we ask to take them off. So in that second round of stuff, we worked with all of our regional partners here in Rutherford County. So Rutherford County, Forest City, Spindale, Lake Lure, Rutherford are the major players in the RPO from Rutherford County. Again, everything that's highlighted in blue are projects that we either holistically supported as far as a request or that we asked for to be moved in. Most of these projects would either come from a bike and ped plan, the county comprehensive transportation plan, or some other level of planning document that would come from the cities. Now, it doesn't have to be in that, but that also adds to the scoring matrix so that it's been vetted by the public along the way. And so we did look at some of our other bike and ped projects, but they just right now do not score high enough that would necessitate any chance of competitive scoring in the process. The other issue is that when we look at bike and ped projects right now, and there is legislation that is looking to change this, but the current legislation would require the town to participate at some level it goes on the tier system, at between 10 and 20% of the overall project, the town would have to financially contribute to for bike and ped projects. So you don't want to overload bike and ped projects. If they all get funded, then you're on the hook for all of those. Does that make sense? So the ones that are in the blue are the ones that are on the project. The first one is a bike and ped project but it is adding sidewalks on either side of the road and bike and ped facilities for what was the Charlotte Road corridor. Now, because there are raised grant dollars against that, we would not have to make that match. What we're trying to do, and that's a request from the division office, you can see where it says division needs. That's a division needs request from our local DOT office because they're trying to get additional dollars towards the raised grant to ensure that if inflation has moved up, if it gives them the STI, we can have some additional dollars. So we would not be on the hook for anything on that division need. And it does score pretty well. It scores at a 31, even though we've got that raised grant dollar there. So that's really what that one's about. The next one is a true town request. So from our bike and ped plan, the number one project in our bike and ped plan was to find a way to connect the sidewalks at the end of Maple Street to Forest Hills Circle along Edward Street, with the knowledge that that would help to connect Forest Hills. It wouldn't get into Forest Hills, but it would help connect a connecting point at Forest Hills. It would connect Crestview Park and then all of the neighborhoods along Edward Street back to Maple Street. And so that was the number one project that came out of our bike and ped plan, and that one is the one that made it here. And it scored pretty well too. It actually scored the highest of all of our bike and ped projects from that plan. It had a 26.5. The cost estimate there is $780,000, so 10%, $78,000, but that's a pretty lengthy project for a bike and ped project to go from Maple Street to Forest Hill Circle on Edward Street.
And that basically would add a sidewalk, look at the 2 points.
It had a curb and gutter and sidewalks between those 2 points. All right, the next one on here that the town asked for is, and this one we asked for in partnership with the town of Spindale, is Railroad Avenue. So this next blue one is Railroad Avenue. We basically modernize that road to add some turn lanes, to widen the road, to take out some of the safety concerns for the large open driveways. It's one of our highest crash areas. Believe it or not, the intersection of Railroad Avenue and Collette Street is our highest crash volume in the city. And so trying to do some safety concerns at that intersection. That scores on a regional basis at a 40 and at our local level at a 25, almost 25.5. So it scores well. We would not be on the hook for any of that $15.5 million project. But that would really kind of modernize that and add shoulders, improve all the intersections. The next one is one that we asked for in partnership with Rutherford County. And so we're trying to look towards the future as the new bypass comes in and try to look at new commuting ways and new connectivity areas from the town northward and southward. And this next one connects the airport. So it'd be a modernization of Rock Road out from Broyhill Road out to Oscar Justice. So Broyhill Road will be rebuilt as a part of the bypass. Some of it has already been started to be rebuilt, and this would be a modernization of Rock Road from Oscar Justice Road from Broyhill out to Oscar Justice to the airport. So give a better connection into Rutherfordton from the airport. That was one that the county was high on their list, and it would make sense for us to support that. And then the last one is that we've supported, again in partnership with Rutherford County, was a modernization of Cox Road from South Main Street out to Union Road, so that where Union Road and 74 come together, right there at the interchange, you get off at Union, you would come down to Cox. It would start there at Cox and come all the way back to South Main Street to widen that, try to take some of those S curves or straighten some of those S curves out on Cox and improve that with newer shoulders, better turn lanes, and better intersections along Cox Road. That's the second area of concern from fire department and police department, just the amount of volumes of incidents we get there. And what we're starting to see there is truck traffic and truck crashes. So our fire department has responded to 2 fatalities over the last 2 years along Cox Road from truck drivers, where what's happening is anything that's coming from the west, so coming from Columbus on 26 towards Rutherfordton, their GPS is taking them that route, even our truck traffic. And that road is not sustained, or it's not built for truck traffic. So,
Okay,
it's very dangerous out there, so that's one that we supported. That one has not been scored yet, but it is one that's been on the list. So with that, I'll stop and
so
let
that
you
would
guys
basically be widening the road and putting shoulders in.
widen the
There are no
road.
sidewalks, there are no
Uh,
bike paths. I mean, it needs widening, it needs shoulders, because you need a transfer truck in those curves. They find it hard to stay on their side of the road.
Yeah, and trying to take some of those curves out, especially the curves between Cleghorn Plantation Road and say, Tom Camp Road, some of
Yeah.
those sharper series of S curves, trying to take those out if there's any way possible. So with that, I'll stop, let's ask any questions. The rest of them are projects that are either in Forest City or Spindale, Lake Lure, those type of things that score. And again, the idea is that, that we're asking all member jurisdictions to have a resolution of support of the projects on the table.
In the community development meetings, we've always been raised the issue of from Maple to, against Maple Creek. Was that scored? Is that in this plan somewhere?
It's not in this plan, and unfortunately, it just does not score high enough for us to really warrant putting it in. We could ask for that, to have it placed into the program, but chances are, based on the competition level right now, it's not going to get funded.
I mean, you got, in my perspective, you got more people walking on that road, on that section than you do this other section. And there's less opportunities to walk somewhere other than the road. I mean, if you were at the hospital and you want to go down the hill, you can cut through the hospital property, the golf course, and get halfway down there. And I don't see that many people walking that road. So I have to voice from a community development perspective. That road to me is a priority should be for the county and the town. It's one of those roads we can't do anything with. County says they can't, but somebody needs to do something.
I agree with what Henry's saying, because there is a lot of people walking. I guess you would have to have a fatality to happen there before something happens.
No, unfortunately, this comes solely down to the scoring matrix, and I totally agree with what both of you were saying, 100%. I have voiced my concerns. Mayor can tell you we've had of late, probably most of my time on the TAC, we've had our last 3 meetings have been joint meetings between the TAC and the TCC, so both staff and elected officials. And, we voiced our concern to have that added. It really comes down to the scoring matrix, and unfortunately, it just doesn't score. And I wish there was a way that we could change that, but I know exactly what you're saying, Henry. I know exactly what you're saying, of course, because I hear it too.
We're in competition with 3 other counties. And when we get in there and people have their own priorities that they push, and in reality, it's what the state perceives as what as it scores. When Doug talks about scoring, if the state then perceives it to be that important, you're going to stay on the list. You're going to be on that list from now on. So the object of this procedure is to try to find those areas where we can have some agreement that it does score well and we can get some money to take care of something. And it's very tough. And when the state says we don't have the money to cover it, kind of stops you in your tracks. But while we're in this section, let me compliment Doug. There's a lot of time and work goes into this, and constant telling the state how important it is, because they have to constantly hear how we push something, because they can very easily push it back if they wanted to. And that's what they tell us.
And I realize I'm on the outside of that scoring process, but I look at it and say, this side of it versus this side, and this side for safety, health, welfare, number of people that are actually walking now on the road, on the side of the road, this side looks to me like it would score more. Obviously, there's some scoring points that fit into some other nomenclature that I don't know, don't appreciate. I'm just saying, to me, that side's really more important than this one. I understand that I don't get the score.
Well, you have to work within the system, and, like I said, Doug does a great job in protecting our interests, because we're in somewhat of competition with everybody else in this county, is to try to get our projects taken care of. And
Yeah,
so
but
we
it's-
have to keep putting it in there and fighting for it, and then the state tells you if they will do it.
I did not mean to say anything that implied that Doug is not being proactive on our part. in
What
this project.
I think we can do is, there's still room in the prioritization projects for this round to add bike and ped projects. So when I count up the highway projects and the aviation projects, we're pretty well maxed out on those. What I can do is talk to Alan Tony, who is our chair and staff member of the RPO, and let him know that hopefully the resolution of support goes through tonight, but that we would request to have that project added, even if it doesn't score at a 25 or higher. Again, the chances of it getting funded are very slim, but at least it goes onto the form. And then from there, the spot process is to take the politics out of paving, and that's what it's meant for. But when it's on that STI, it's definitely been on everyone's radar. So I just need you to understand that it's probably not going to score very high, and it's probably not going to be something that gets funded, but we can definitely make a request from the bike and ped side to see if it can be added.
And we will,
What prevents this particular project from scoring well? What's holding it back?
I would say, probably knowing what I know about that system, connectivity and density. When you look at how many homes would be walkable going south, and the density south within a quarter mile of that sidewalk versus the homes north and kind of the density north, that would probably be the first thing I would say. Other than that, I don't really know without really delving into that scoring matrix.
a lot of times we're just saying it didn't score high enough.
Trust me.
That's what we're told.
That's the end of the conversation.
I was trying to say, if it does score high, I believe that would do something to score higher.
They'll let you know.
Well,
But the important thing is that we always have a voice at those committee meetings. And I think we'll keep you guys informed down the road, because like I said, it is very competitive, all the counties trying to get something done for everybody. And so,
I would like to see that project submitted as Doug suggested, even if it doesn't get funded or doesn't score or quote high enough. It scores in my mind high enough for me to think that it's important.
I agree with Henry on that. At least maybe they can come through the area and see for themselves, and maybe that will change the score.
That would be fantastic.
I know. But I know it's, Doug, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
move we approve submit a resolution supporting the 2002-24 Foothills spot project.
motion on the floor, is there a second?
I said,
There is a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Let the record show it is 3-0. Thank you.
very good report.
All right, I'm gonna start backwards on this one, just to make this maybe a little easy for you. And, just kind of as a refresher. So the next item on the agenda is, Norris Recreation Complex Phase 1, the request for final engineering design and construction administrative services with Destination by Design. I want to kind of start backwards here, even though financing really isn't something that we take into consideration when it comes to engineering qualifications. I want to give you kind of an overview of where we stand with Norris Recreation Complex. So when we submitted in for the PARTEF grant, the project cost at that time was estimated at $1,445,975. And in that budget, we had about $200,000 for construction management, kind of the final design, surveying, all that kind of stuff at $200,000. Since the time of the PARTEF application, the town has been hard at work in working with our partners, both at Tourism Development Authority, RHI Legacy, who graciously matched the PARTEF award, PARTEF, the Overmountain Victory Trail Association, and most recently the Carolina Foothills Foundation. And so with all of those funding partners, those are either cash in hand or pledges that are guaranteed cashes in hand. So like the Tourism Development Authority, not all of that is cash in hand, but it is allocated towards the town of Rutherford. In our request for the PARTEF dollars, we did look at a contribution from the Rutherford Recreation Trust Fund, but that what I'm going to show you does not have anything from the trust fund in there at all. I do anticipate a recommendation coming from the Recreation Committee and the trust fund at a future time to help with Norris Recreation Complex. But to date, we have $1,480,360 in that project. So about $40,000, or $35-ish thousand more than the budget, with really no town dollars other than my time and some of Keith's time in preparation of the site. So, and that's great, we've been able to kind of put that together to move forward with the project. So we did go out for a request for proposals for final engineering services. We had 4 firms submit qualifications for that, and they were all complete documents. We had Destination by Design, we had Landworks Design Group, Civil Design Concepts, and Odom Engineering. And so we scored those internally on a 100-point scale. There were 5 areas, including the qualifications of the company, similar projects, what personnel would be there, kind of the methodology of how they would plan to work with both our recreation committee, town staff, and the community to ensure the final design was there, and then obviously their scheduling. So all of those had areas that they had to respond to. We scored those and then took everybody's internal scores and averaged everybody's internal scores. And hands down, Destination by Design scored at a much higher level than all of the other firms combined. And so they scored at a 95.3. Based on the remarks from everybody's scoring sheets, they were very excited to work with Destination by Design. Just the level of design and kind of the thought process that they put into the park, and kind of the understanding of what they would do to keep us on budget and develop a quality park asset for our community was just in their document was hands down better than the rest. So we did take that to the Parks and Recreation Committee at their meeting last week, and the Parks and Recreation Committee did unanimously vote to recommend to the town council to proceed with Destination by Design for phase 1 of the Norris Recreation Complex. And so Destination by Design, this will be the first project that they will do for the town of Rutherfordton when it comes to final designing and construction and administration. But if you remember, they were the firm that was chosen for the master plan for Kiwanis Park. We had a different firm that did the final construction admin over there, but they did the master plan for Kiwanis Park. And they've been very instrumental with the designs along Rutherford Bound, which is a kind of a design process for the Tourism Development Authority, and they've actually helped us under contract with the Tourism Development Authority on some smaller projects. So we've been very pleased with their staff, very pleased with their expertise, and really hope that this is going to be a great project. They also come highly recommended, as we called some of their references. One of their bigger projects that they're working on right now in Rutherford County is the Legacy Golf Complex for RHI Legacy, Rutherford County, and Forest City, and they have all been very complimentary of Destination by Design on that project that's going to go out for bid. So with that, there is a contract that is in here. Beth and I have had a chance to review that. We did make some changes with Eric and his team at Destination by Design that were beneficial for both parties. So if there was a motion, what I would ask is that the motion would allow for the business terms of that contract to stay the same, but for the town manager and the town attorney to finalize any legalese language and execute that contract.
Again, if I remember right, the estimated fee for design and construction supervision is $200,000.
That is the estimate in our project budget, and this contract would be for $172,000. So under our estimated allocated estimate for that.
So
So
they stay under.
stay under our budget, yes, ma'am.
Questions or
Still
comments?
got construction that you're,
Oh, yes, yes. But if you go back, this is our original budget here, and so,
would they do that for the 28,000?
no, sir, that's turnkey. So this $200,000 was the construction management, all of the designing, all of the kind of soft costs that would go along with a potential contract like this. We had allocated $200,000, and the fee that's under contract with Destination by Design would be $172,000. So,
All of that.
yes, sir. So it still leave dollars on the table for other areas of our budget.
For like 28,000.
Yes, sir.
So, but that is, they're gonna do the design, and then once we have a contractor, they're gonna supervise that inside that 178,
172, yes, sir.
172. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, and I can take you to that page. It kind of breaks down. What we did on one of the edits that came in today is we added timelines to these. So these are their task numbers and kind of the project, the schedule of fees that go along with those tasks. What we wanted to do is to keep them on schedule as we have now. We have not just the cost, but also a target date that they have to meet for those. So you can see that the final design, you can see the kind of direction setting, the early setting, the actual drawings themselves, final design and permitting, and then that construction oversight for the 172. So the turnkey project for that.
Thank you.
So
Yes,
what
sir.
happens if they don't meet the deadline on the task?
You pay a meeting on
We would pay them anyway, but we're trying to keep this thing moving. We're trying to keep it moving.
But sometimes things happen.
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
Or include the wet stream.
If you got it in writing, at least you got something to talk about while you're working.
It does. Yeah, that was on today's head.
Just have Glenn or somebody stay on their front door all the time. Push Keith, maybe. You know what it takes.
Any other questions or comments from council or further discussion?
I move we approve contract to be done, authorize Doug to finalize the contract with Destination by Design for the design and construction oversight of Norris Recreation Complex, phase 1.
We got all that down?
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
I will second that. We look at all that.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Let the record show it is unanimous, 3-0.
Budget ordinance, a budget amendment, I'm sorry. And this is pretty simple, one item. You guys had kind of earmarked, that we could use up to $22,500 of the ARP funds to purchase things for the inside of fire station number 2, beds, mattresses, all of that. We are at a point, I believe flooring, if it's not in, it's going in soon. So we are at a point to where we can start placing some of those orders, and the contractor said that we can have it shipped there because the building can, be secured. So we're ready to start ordering. I just need your approval to move the money, into the general fund to start making those purchases.
Questions or comments?
Approve ordinance.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
I second.
There is a second, any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Let the record show it is unanimous, and I would encourage council, if you haven't been out that way recently, take the time to go out. Just out there a few days ago, building looks great, first class. I've talked to some people who's out that way, they're all proud of the building being there, so it looks good.
Yeah,
It was a sign.
sometime later this week, the building will be secured, so, get out there today or tomorrow, you can probably still get in on the side door, but once the flooring goes in, that door will go in, and then the building will be locked up at night, and nobody's there working. Be glad to meet with you or have Chief Harold meet you out there, but if you haven't had a chance to take a walk through it, I highly encourage you to do so. It looks great, and we're still ahead of schedule. We're probably now a solid 5 weeks ahead of schedule. We're still looking to do the formal ribbon cutting and operating formally of the building in October. But I imagine we'll take delivery of that building late August, early September, so probably sometime around Labor Day is what we're looking at right now with E.S. Walker Construction. So really pleased with how that project's coming together. The one thing that, and I've said this before, the one thing that we will not have on day one, just with lead times, will be the backup generators. Everything else will be in place. It's just that backup generator itself. We've ran into that issue on some sewer projects here lately that are just extremely long lead times on those generators. But Sheldon and his team at ES Walker's done a great job. Like Sonia said, this will allow us to now start putting in washer and dryer, ice machine, beds, dressers, furniture in the office area, that kind of thing.
Moving on to general manager report.
All right, so we have a couple of things to go over here, just for the sake of those that are now tuning in. We are going to be reopening Second Street Park under a new name, Fairview Park. And that'll be Friday at 4 o'clock at Fairview Park, which address is 149 Recreation Street. So I want to give a big thank you to RHI Legacy Foundation, the Fairview community, and more importantly, our Public Works team. Keith, you and your entire team have been instrumental in allowing the town to stretch its dollar from RHI Legacy into something much more than we had originally envisioned. And so I want to give a heartfelt thank you here and definitely on Friday to you and your team for what you guys have been able to construct up there. In the tune of parks and playgrounds, I think it's hardwired in to playground salesmen to make you wait to the absolute last minute. I know we've talked here about delays over at Crestview Park. The playground equipment company that we used for Fairview Park was different, obviously, but we ran into some delays, got it in before the grand opening. And so if you haven't been up there today, the new playground equipment has been installed. Please don't play on it because the concrete is still drying. It'll be ready on Friday afternoon, but the swings are in, the big playground area is in. We've said from the beginning that this is a very unique play structure and it looks so good out there. I can't wait for the kids to get out and play on it. But Keith was out there today with his team and the installers from the playground company making sure that it was ready to go for Friday. So that's going to be a fun time, Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Be a brief ceremony, but bring your kids out, bring your grandkids. And just come celebrate. A lot of the community members that have been instrumental in helping set a vision will be there. There'll be a community member that grew up in the house across the street that has now provided some art that will be installed as a part of the park that will be there. And so that's what the basketball is all about. It's all blue over at Fairview Park. And so come out, there'll be some basketballs. You can take one home with you, take one home for the kids. But that park and its original envisionment from the Carolina or the Rutherford and Richmond Council and the Hamilton family to see it kind of come back to life in that basketball court, be an integral part of that neighborhood, now have all the amenities around it, and to listen to some of the youth, they're not youth anymore, but some at the time that were youth that grew up in the neighborhood that were part of the 32 and O team that got their start there on that court, and to kind of see that now come full circle, and hear some of their stories has been really neat. So that's gonna be fun on Friday to celebrate that reopening.
Hey, if we have not, be sure Legacy Foundation gets the invitations,
They are aware.
all right?
So you don't want us to put our footprint in the concrete, is that what you're saying?
No, you'll get a mud print today. You'll get a mud print today. I also want to thank the Martin Luther King Committee of New Hope. For the last 5 summers, Ms. Doris Crute and a team of volunteers have put on a summer leadership program that I have just merely had the opportunity to be a small part of. But today, Magnolia and I got to celebrate in their graduation. And 34 youth from our community and New Hope community have now spent an immersive 5 weeks with Mrs. Crete and her team of that Martin Luther King committee to learn about Black history, to learn about religion history, to learn about how to be active, participating members of a community, and really to build bonds and friendships that will warrant them for success for the rest of their life. And Doris, I just wanted to call you out for that and say thank you, because I know that's a lot of work, and I know you're not the only person that's a part of that. There is a true team from your working committee, the Martin Luther King Committee. But I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of it, and I want to give a big congratulations to those 34 youth that spent those 5 weeks with you.
Thank you, thanks everybody.
The mayor talked about it in his opening too, but the town has also partnered to the Back to School Bash, which will be held over at Pops from 10 to 3 on Saturday. And so I know that Forest City Dunbar has already gone back to school, but for the rest of those kiddos and teachers and educators and bus drivers and classroom assistants and all of the folks that make our public education system and the cogs in that wheel turn, we want to say a big thank you to all of them as they head back to school on Monday week. But that Back to School Bash is really a conglomeration that started with the Grahamtown Committee, Keisha McDowell and her group, Lindsay Abrams, who you guys know from our community garden and Marshall Park, but is also part of the Boston Outreach. There was an opportunity where so many churches, so many nonprofit groups were coming together to assist with back to school that it made it very difficult for people to really try to fully understand where all these opportunities and resources were housed. And so now all of these faith-based organizations, all of these service organizations are coming together in one central location to provide health screenings, to provide the ability for sports physicals, to provide the ability for back to school supplies, health supplies, and just fun for the kids. And so now if you're looking for some pencils and erasers and you can't find them and you want something fun for the kids to do, that's going to be from 10 to 3 over at Pops in Forest City. So just don't think because it's over at Pops that nobody else is a part of that. That's really a full county-wide initiative to support back to school. And then the last thing I wanted to talk to the council about, this will be something that we would bring back to you at our September meeting for full approval. But as Sonia and I have been working to work with our auditors, as you know, we've been kind of immersed in our audit for the FY23 budget over the last really 8 days and 6 hours. Sonia can tell you down to the minute. But one of the goals that we're trying to do now, and these will not be things that are reflected in that audit, but as we kind of move through the audit season, we want to start closing out some project funds. And so we've got some project funds that are open. The first one that we'd like to try to close out is the project fund for the Westbrook sewer line, or the RS Central sewer line project that installed that sewer line out there. At the end of the day, when all the dust settled on that project, if you remember, we had a little over $1 million in the form of a principal forgiveness loan from the state of North Carolina, where they came in and forgave $500,000 worth of principal on that balance. And then we also had a contribution from the school system of $333,000 on that project. And so right now, we have a cash balance in that project, under budget cash balance in that project of $225,928. We did reach out to the state to see if we made a one-time principal payment on that amortization schedule, if they would re-amortize or kind of refinance the loan, and they will not do that. And so even though it's a 20-year note at 0% interest, by making a full cash payment of $225 really isn't gonna help us tremendously right now in the short term. We are budgeted for that loan payment. There's no issue with us making that loan payment on the full amortization schedule. That's how we built the project. And so what we'd like to do is we kind of looked at, what other notes are out there in the sewer fund. And we do have one other note for Charlotte Road for a pump station project there that's at 0% interest. But we're finishing up a note that started back in 2006 as a 20-year note. And it still has 2 payments left on that note. And it has a balance of $62,310.71. And it carries an interest of 2.2%. There's no prepayment penalty there, and it would free up around $32,000 over the next 2 budget cycles. So not our current year, but the next 2 budget cycles of debt service money. And we could continue to make payments on this or use those to free up what the escalating cost of our system would be. So what we would propose is to bring back an ordinance to close out this project fund of the $225,000, make a one-time payment and pay off this note at 2.2% interest for $62,000, and then take the rest of that $225 and apply it towards a one-time principal payment on the existing note for that project. Again, it wouldn't allow us to re-amortize it, but by paying that major cash balance now, it would probably expedite that amortization schedule by 7 to 8 years because we've made that one-time payoff. Does that make sense? So we would need to do all that via ordinance, but I wanted to bring up the manager's report because this will be the first of, I think there's 3 other project funds, 3 total that we'd like to close. This one's the easiest. The other 2 will require a little bit more conversation, and we'll put those on for new business items, but this one was about the easiest as we kind of went through the projects.
Makes sense to do it this way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll bring all that back in the form of an ordinance at our September meeting for you to review, but that'll really help us out operationally and start closing some of these out.
Well, and it just helps out with the audit process too, that, once the project's complete, let's get it closed and
Get rid of it.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
And as several of you know, we've gone through the audit process, you're working on the audit over here and you're making a list of, okay, we need to start moving in this direction and start doing this. So it's kind of working in 2 years. And so that one looked easy and straightforward. And so I brought that one to Doug first and said, it's something I'd like to get done in the next few months.
All right. That was all I had. And Mayor, we do have a need for a closed session of 3 topics.
Any other department committee reports, anything to report? Audit is going well, I presume.
It is, my audit week was last week, which was extremely early, considering the fiscal year just ended, June 30th. So there were some things that just physically we couldn't get. So Monday and Tuesday, with it being the 1st of August, I was able to get my hands on some of that. So they're still working, but they are now working on drafting the financials. So we're in that phase of, they have a few lingering questions here and there when something comes up, but for the most part, they've already moved into the drafting phase. So everything seemed to go smooth. They were on site for a few hours last Thursday. Everything else has pretty much been done remote. But again, they're great to work with and smooth process.
Any questions, comments from council?
Two things.
Yes, sir.
First, I'd just like to say, I've been on the council over 14 years now. And I don't think I ever recall an agenda where we're doing so many positive things. And not just positive things, but positive big things, things that are going to help our community grow and develop and better development. And none of them are cheap, but not costing their living much to get anything. So it's hard to beat. So Doug, you and all your staff, thank you. Job well done.
Ditto that.
Any other comments?
I got one more.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
looking in the local paper with all the events coming up out of equestrian, so there's the Girls Rose Festival, big rodeo coming up. Is there anything we need to be doing to make folks out there aware that, hey, there's a little town about 2 miles an hour road called Rutland, you might become busy while you're out there? With Eddie Lou Harris, and Jerry Douglas, and those folks coming in for the Bluegrass Festival, that's four flags.
We can definitely put some of our targeted advertising dollars that way. We've done that before. We use social media and kind of analytics to target some of our stuff out that way and do that. I've joked for years, I know we're live on here, but we've got to put a sewer pump station out there. Boy said we should put a rooftop deck on it and sell tickets to the top of the pump station. But,
So that would.
but no, we do have a good relationship with the Equestrian Center, and they do make sure to try to advertise local things for us
Have
too.
y'all ever done anything with geofencing?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir.
The
So,
way of design, you just take a radius around that area, and bombard them and not everybody else with advertising.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Stan, I'll be working with that music festival. I'll tell everybody to flush twice.
Free message.
Okay.
They caught on, they put in automatic flushers.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I think when the, TV station came through, channel, I thought they did a very good,
They get it.
I thought they did a very good showing about road footage.
Sure.
A couple of people called and said that, you know, the town is really good.
They brought a big staff
Yes,
and
yeah.
it was a fun morning. So thank everybody that had a part in that. And we did have a lot of people that had a part in it. So it was very enjoyable. They did a great job. Yeah. Thank you, man. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
There's a motion, and I hope there's a second.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand, stand up, and we'll take a 5-minute recess.